Hello everybody, welcome back to Leading Our Runway. I'm your host, Andrew White, and I'm so happy that you're back because it's a brand new guest, a brand new week, and I hope you've enjoyed what we've had so far. Anyway, today's episode is one of the most heartfelt and important conversations I've had because it's built on love, loss, and the decision to keep showing up anyway. I'm joined by Karl Waddell, who shares the story of his beautiful son River and the unimaginable grief that followed his passing. But this isn't only a story about tragedy, it's a story about purpose. Karl takes us into the reality of mental health after loss, the power of community when you feel like you're falling apart, and how he turned pain into action by creating River's Gift, a charity raising awareness and funding research into SIDS while helping families feel less alone. Karl's also deeply fascinated by the human brain, and we unpack how the mind tries to make sense of the senseless and what healing can actually look like. If this conversation moves you today, please share it with someone who needs it and leave a rating, a review, whatever you can do. It takes a few seconds because it really helps us get these journeys out to more and more people that it's meant to reach. Side note, Karl and myself met on the basketball courts here in Australia where our children played on the court. It was amazing. I love it when these full circles come together, and I learned so much about Karl today, even more as well. So it's absolutely fascinating. Anyway, here's part one of part two, here with Karl Waddell and myself. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Before we dive in, I want to give a big, massive shout out to our now new proud sponsor, SU Skincare, a brand that truly aligns with Leading Our Own Way. This Australian-born company is dedicated to keeping skincare simple, effective, and straightforward. They've made waves in the US, even landed in Macy's and over 300 stores, and now they're back with a renewed focus on healthy skin and real results. If you want authentic skincare that fits your lifestyle, check them out in the show notes. Thanks to SU Skincare for supporting real stories and mental fitness on Leading Our Own Way. And if you're interested in sponsoring like SU Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to connect. Karl Waddell, welcome to Leading Our Own Way. How are you doing tonight, brother?
Good, Andy. Thanks so much for having me online. It's great. It's great to catch up.
Yeah, and I think that word catch up is pivotal, really, because we actually know each other, being two dads in the game of basketball here in Melbourne, Australia.
We do. I just remember the first time I saw you coaching, I thought, geez, this guy's enthusiastic. When's he going to jump on the court and get involved? He's got his 10-year-old son out there, and I think you're way more enthusiastic than any of the kids.
Yeah, I get that a lot, yeah. You know, if I struggle here, actually. You've embarrassed me now, actually. I didn't expect that one to come up. Yeah. No, it's cool. You're so right, though, because I think people misconstrue that passion for the kids of the end. You know, I want the kids to have so much passion and energy on the court. Yes. Some people will take it the wrong way. I'm just passionate for the kids here. That's it.
It was so good. It was pretty refreshing when I first saw it, and then that's what I expected each time.
That's what I gave you each time, right?
That's what you gave me each time, yeah.
You've it's been a pleasure knowing you in that world, and now we're joined together in my journey. So I appreciate you joining me on my journey because you've been on one hell of a journey, haven't you, Karl?
I have, Andy. It's a life full of ups and downs, and certainly very character building, and it's something that I'm very grateful for. I wouldn't want it any other way. And with all that we're doing, you know, and now that I'm 52 years of age and running a charitable organisation and all that we're doing, we feel there's great purpose. And yeah, it's certainly been a journey of ups and downs, but one that I'm incredibly blessed for.
Yeah, it is a beautiful journey and definitely a sad one. And I hope people, you know, that are going through something similar to yourself or have been through something can take something away from today and hopefully put it into their life and turn a mission into purpose. And, you know, I think when we first met, I obviously knew with what was going around the basketball community and what charities were being held. I didn't actually connect the dots immediately. That was, you know, you, Karl, but obviously I knew the charity River's Gift going around the basketball community, and then we'd meet a couple more times and I'd connect those dots. And then when I met you on the street and I told you about the podcast, came to light, obviously a lot deeper, of what you're doing every single day now, and we're going to get into it very shortly. But when we did do the pre-chat and we got really into it, there was so much more layers to your journey, and even just your personal journey coming from a youngster as well. So with everything in mind, with what we're going to go through with more recent in your life and obviously your childhood, just paint a little picture before we get into the depth of it. Where are you going to take us on today's episode? Where's your, if you could put it into a couple of words or a couple of sentences, where do you think you're going to take us today?
I think resilience is a huge factor, a huge flavour in what we talk about today, Andrew, or Andy.
You can call me Andy.
Resilience and purpose. You asked for a couple of words, and I think connectedness, community is incredibly powerful in the things we'll speak about. Certainly with the charitable work we're doing now, and even the importance of connectedness, love, and community with my younger age journeys as well. It's without that, I don't know where I'd be or if I'd be. It's really a thread that I've experienced throughout life, and it's an incredible privilege to be on here with you, Andy, and to have the opportunity to share it. I think it'll be quite an experience for myself too. Just sharing this as we talk it through. I'll probably look back in an hour and a half or whatever it might be and think, gee, wow, all that's happened. Yeah. It's something that I feel very, very grateful to have the opportunity to share, and thank you.
No, absolutely my honour. I'm so glad you're here, Karl. And it's always nice to have somebody I've met as well, and we've had a connection outside of the podcast. So, no, it's beautiful. With resilience, the word resilience, we're going to get into your purpose, and it'll be pretty crystal clear by the time we get to the end of the show. And obviously, I ask all my guests to tell us what their purpose is in one powerful line. So we'll leave that one to the end, the word purpose, because you mentioned the other word resilience, and resilience definitely comes up on the podcast every single time, and the word and connectedness as well, and human connection in particular. With the word resilience, what does the word resilience gets thrown around quite a lot, especially in schools, and I'm a part of that. Yeah, it's something I don't think you can role model. I don't think it's something you can necessarily teach. I'd like to build resilience up in my children by allowing them to struggle in a healthy way. But what is resilience to you in connected to the journey you've been on?
I think, Andy, if I look at my journey and the experience that I've faced, it's really just facing hardship. It's facing a roadway forward. And a lot of the time you don't know what that roadway might even look like, if there is one at all. And it's a I don't like to use the word grit and determination, but I just did. And that really is what it is. It's facing it and thinking, well, I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know what next week brings, but I think resilience in my case, I look at a couple of people that I know in my life, and I think, well, I think I've had it tough, but I've had some incredible support and love and people around me, family and friends. But then, I look at this friend of mine who I think I mentioned to you recently that I was just helping him with a citizenship application. He's a refugee from Afghanistan. And I hear his story, and I'm just mind blown. I just, it's jaw dropping stuff. That chased by the Taliban and basically chased out of his own country, and jumping on a boat and landing on Australian shores, and living under a tarp for the first few months of his journey on his way here, and it's just incredible. But to answer your question, resilience really is about facing unexpected hardship in many ways. As a as a young boy, as an 11-year-old, and being the eldest of four children, and mum and dad are arguing all the time at home, and before I know it, they've separated. And so of course that was unexpected to me. I naturally, you think as an 8, 9, 10-year-old or even younger, you think, well, mum and dad are always going to be around. They're always going to be together. And of course they were around, but they weren't together. And then the other things that we'll speak about through, loss that I've experienced so close to home with the loss of my little boy. None of that's expected. I just felt a chill. In our instance, none of that was expected. It was a sudden infant death in sleep. And And then you can even turn the page again to marriage separation. You know, Alex and I parting in 2019, and it's I didn't think that was going to happen. You know, I thought that, yeah, okay, everything's not rosy, but we'll be together forever. You know, it's all right, it'll happen, and then bang, there it was. So resilience, I think, is facing that hardship and really grinding in, and even though you might not feel you've got much in you, just believe in yourself and have faith that tomorrow will come around.
Yeah. With all that in mind, then I think the question I suppose I want to pose to you is on a scale of 0 to 10 on your mental health state right now, as we're currently speaking, 0 being rock bottom and 10 being, I don't know, I like to use the word content. Where would you say you lie on that line?
I'm an 8 or 9. Yeah, I'm feeling as good as I have in a long time now. You know, and
good.
And I think that's important, isn't it? You know, in feeling good in myself and being with a lovely partner now and have been for nearly 6 months, and feeling like we're on a journey together there through life, and my beautiful children, and I love what I do with work. I feel really good. You know, I don't know if I'm allowed to say 10, but
say what you want.
There is no allowed, is there? Who cares, really?
Yeah.
But I can say there are some days that I feel 10 out of 10. Maybe if I could exercise a bit more, it might be even better. But I'm getting old, Andy. I don't know about you. I'm speaking for myself. I'm in my 50s now, and things break down.
Mate, I'm having the worst hip pain right now. You should have seen me at school today. Seriously. I've been in a lot of pain, but hopefully it's just sciatica. I actually don't know. I feel like it's joint pain. I don't know. I didn't even play basketball last night.
Oh, that is pain. That's real pain.
And I normally push myself, but I couldn't do it. No, I couldn't do it. Right. Well, Karl, this is perfect time then. Tell us a little bit about how you're leading your own way with what you're doing, and tell us a little bit about your journey of why you do what you do.
Right as we speak, I work in a full-time role with a charitable organisation that I'm just incredibly passionate about. The organisation is Rivers Gift, and we specifically focus in and around sudden unexpected death in infancy. And Rivers Gift was founded originally at the end of 2011, started 2012, by Alex and I in honour of our firstborn. River was born in mid-2011, and we're living in a small coastal town here in the southeast of Australia called Torquay, well known for Bells Beach. And living in Torquay and living the dream, really. Beautiful little boy in our lives, starting a family. We're in our own home and only 500 metres from the beach. You know, life was pretty grand, and he was a healthy and happy little man, meeting all his marks. And on the morning of the 7th of November 2011, so just over 4 months after we'd welcomed him into our world, we woke to what really can only ever be described as a parent's worst nightmare. And thinking back, that scream that came from River's bedroom as Alex went to his cot side at 7:25 in the morning, you know, that'll never leave me, Andy. That scream is just there. It's vivid. And Alex running towards me with River in her arms, and basically saying to me, he's dead, you know, and I attempted to revive Rivy, perform CPR, and the neighbour came over from next door. He could hear the commotion, and he came from next door, and we attempted CPR, and we had the ambulance on the phone on speaker, and really, I mean, I know that it was pretty poignant the way I just described it, but that was as it was, and I think what's important, and what I hope you think is important too, is that I do describe it as it was, and because it was real. You know, It was. We went from going to bed on the 6th of November. I wasn't very well. I had a bit of a cold, and so did Riv actually, but he shouldn't die from a cold, you know. Went to bed on the 6th of November, the Sunday night, to wake up the next morning to the unimaginable, and in those ensuing days and weeks, we went looking for answers. So we were trawling through, Googling, you know, what is this thing called sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, and cot death, and as it used to be known. And we were trying to learn, and what sort of research is happening, and what do they know about this condition? Because we were pretty sure early on, the Coronial Office were indicating that there's a strong likelihood it would be a diagnosis of SIDS, and naturally that coronial process takes some time. You know, the proceedings of autopsy and whatnot, and it did come back weeks later that it was officially a sudden infant death syndrome diagnosis or classification, and we could see fairly early, Alex and I, that there wasn't really much being done anymore, and in the space of SIDS, and by way of funding research and driving education. There's an organisation here in Australia called Red Nose, and they were SIDS and Kids, and initially the Sudden Infant Death Research Foundation, SIDRF, was founded by Corinne Fitzgerald, who was herself the mother of a little baby boy, Glenn, who passed away in the late 70s in Melbourne. She was a mother of 5, a hairdresser, and she lost her little man, lost her little boy, and started this movement in the late 70s. And she really was the movement she created, the impact that she made and drove. She was really the mother of all things driving the world of SIDS research and prevention, and the success and the impact that SIDS and Kids and Red Nose now had on this, particularly here in Australia, was profound. You know, we saw the number of infant deaths in sleep fall from around about 600 plus a year in Australia each and every year in the early 90s down to around about 100 a year. And so much of that came by way of educating community, educating health professionals, parents, grandparents, caregivers on safe sleep practices. But like us, circling back to what I was saying before, we could see that in more recent time, there wasn't really much time, money, effort being invested into research around sudden infant death syndrome. And we learned fairly soon that River was one of, approximately 100 babies a year, 100 to 130 babies a year who die suddenly and unexpectedly in sleep in Australia. In the UK, it's close to just over 300. In the US, it's just over 3,000 a year. And so, yes, the numbers had reduced significantly by way of incredible public health measures and education and research, but it was still happening. And our little boy was one of those. And we had some good support in and around us, family and friends. And one lady in particular, Amanda Stevens, who some of your listeners may know. She's actually a keynote speaker and specialises in marketing to females in particular, but customer service and marketing to the customer. And she helped us a lot. And she said, well, why don't we think about potentially starting a charity of your own, in honour of River? And so River's Gift was born. She designed this beautiful logo of a sky blue heart with the river running through the middle of it. And that's still our master logo today. So that was back in late 2011, early 2012. And we knew in the early stages that research was our major focus. That was where we really wanted to try and channel all of our energy and attention. And before long, we were fundraising money. We were raising money. There's a running festival here in Victoria, the southeastern state of Australia, called the Great Ocean Road Running Festival, and it's run around the Great Ocean Road, as the name suggests, and it's anywhere from 6 kilometres through to a 45 kilometre run. Wow. Between two beautiful coastal towns, Lorne and Apollo Bay.
Yeah,
many of your listeners will probably know, and we had so many friends and family gathering in around us. This is around about 6 months after we lost Riv. Saying, yep, we want to get on board, and we want to wear one of these blue singlets that you've had designed with the lovely Rivers Gift logo on it. We want to do that, and we want to fundraise. And we raised 22,000 Australian dollars for that. And we partnered off with the Floria Institute of Neuroscience and Mental Health in Melbourne, because we managed to establish really close connection and contact with a lady who had previously been conducting research at Harvard Medical School in the US, in Boston Children's Hospital, under the godmother of SIDS research, Hannah Kinney. So Jodie here in Melbourne, she connected closely in with us, and through her being at the Flory and Rivers Gift really just being more of a logo on a pie in the sky idea at that point, we were able to officially fundraise, and the money would go through to the Flory, and then we were lucky enough to be able to determine where we wanted that money to go, and the Flory were very cooperative in that regard. So the money eventually sort of 12 months later was sent over to Boston. So we funded an Australian researcher, early career researcher, to head over there, which was all very exciting for us. We knew that we'd slept River safely. He was on his back. He had nothing covering his face. His little mouth and nose were free and available to oxygen,
Yeah.
So we knew that we'd slept him as per the safe sleep guidelines. And yes, he had a little cold, but we know that shouldn't cause a fatality.
Yeah.
And we lost our little man, and we thought we've got to do something about it. We've got to try and learn what's happening inside the brain. All these years later now, we know that it's quite sophisticated, and we never would say that two babies who are dying to what is determined as sudden infant death syndrome are dying for the exact same reason. But we are learning so much more. We're really learning so much more, and we know that inevitably one day we'll be we're just going to continue day on day, month on month, just driving those numbers down.
So compared to obviously that day where you're just another parent putting their child to bed, to where you're at now with the knowledge that you've got and the research that you get involved with, what are some of the things that you can share with us today then? I don't want to use the word prevent, because you, like you said, you did everything that would be normal. And I've got two children, and there were times that these thoughts came into my head. What if, but you've still done what you would normally do as a parent, right? There's listeners here now probably a bit, maybe they're a bit worried. I don't know. What's some of the piece of advice that you've learned? Research and what you've knowledge that you now have versus then. What's the biggest take, would you say? Or advice? I don't know the right angle to come from, if I'm honest, Karl. Just taking a very quick break to thank our sponsor, SU Skincare. If you haven't heard of them, SU Skincare started right here in Australia, using Australian ingredients to make skincare straightforward and accessible, especially for men who want results without the fuss. Their journey took them all the way to the US, where they were featured in Macy's and over 300 stores. Now they're back with a fresh approach, focusing on healthy skin and authenticity for everyone. I'm proud to have SU Skincare as a sponsor on Leading Our Own Way. See the show notes for their website and to see how you can keep your skin healthy and confident. And if you're interested in sponsoring like SU Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Now, right back to the episode.
Yeah, it's a topic that not many people are really used to talking about either. And I can see why you may not want to come at it from a certain angle, because you perhaps wouldn't want to, offend or say the wrong thing, although that might not be what you're experiencing. But I think, to answer your question, the greatest piece of knowledge and advice, or knowledge I have and advice I can provide, is to ensure that you're sleeping your baby in the safest possible environment, the safest possible way, because we don't know enough. We don't know enough about the pathological mechanisms and their breakdown, if you like, or the deficiencies at a metabolic, that very small pathological, physiological, minute level, and the amount of funding and research money that's being invested is so minimal. Like we're Australia's number one SIDS research funding organisation.
Wow. And
we're incredibly proud to this year be funding just over $180,000 in Australian dollars towards three separate projects, two genetic projects and another that's more focused on education. So to us, that's massive, right? $180,000 is probably a little bit of money down the side of the couch at Parliament House in Canberra, but to us, it's huge.
Huge, yeah.
But back to the piece of advice is to follow safe sleep guidelines, and to connect in with us at Rivers Gift and ask the questions around how can we sleep our baby in the safest possible fashion and manner. And Red Nose likewise, they've got some great resource material there in order to prevent a sudden and unexpected infant death. Because scarily, Andy, the majority of those deaths that we're still experiencing across the world are actually not a pure SIDS death. They're more of a suffocation. So these little ones are being slept in an environment that is not entirely safe, and sadly they've had something come across their mouth and nose, or they might be face into something. So many of these incidents are actually avoidable by way of safe sleep practice. Now that's easy said, as we sit here at 9 o'clock at night, and we're wide awake, and we talk about this just through conversation. It's not as easy for a mother or father who hasn't slept for 7 nights straight because the baby's been crying all the time to always comprehend, well, how can I still do this in the safest possible way?
Of course.
And it can be incredibly challenging. Those early parental years, I think you'll hear many people say they can be the most challenging of anyone's life. As beautiful as it is, if we're going without sleep nights on end, then it can really affect us mentally and emotionally. So, yeah, the biggest piece of advice, though, coming back, is just safely sleep your baby, and breastfeed as best you can. Just do all you can to breastfeed, because the nutrients in breast milk are really unmatched. And I'm sure you'll have many companies who are producing the formula try and convince you otherwise, but nothing really comes close to the organic magic of breast milk and safe sleep practice. So
yeah. Well, Karl, I'll put everything in your show notes, but whilst everything sits there in the show notes below, can you just give us an email and your social media platform so people can please reach out to Karl at Rivers Gift? That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, sure. So my email address, you're wanting me to read that out, is that right?
Please, yeah, just say it, give it to people, yeah.
Yeah. If you were to email me, so it's Karl with a K, so it's K Waddell, KWADDELL, at riversgift, RIVERSGIFT.org. There's no AU on the end, so it's just .org. Or if you visit our website, riversgift.org, you'll find a way to contact us there quite easily as well. Facebook, if you just search for Rivers Gift, likewise on Insta and LinkedIn, you'll find us on socials.
Beautiful. And I'll tag everything in, and all the posts that will go out, we'll all have all those tagged in as well, so it'll be easy to get hold of you. If you've been through the same path or you're worried about that path as well, please reach out to Karl. It'll be absolutely incredible.
Absolutely love that, Andy, because that's something that's very big with what we do. We love to connect and welcome other families who have experienced something similar to connect in with us, because not everybody's got it in them to want to start their own charity.
Yeah.
But by goodness, you can be a big part of this one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And our Unite program is it's just really prominent with all that we're doing in our planning and our strategy planning and so forth, connecting in with other families who have experienced loss like this. That's very, very important to us. And we'd love to hear from anyone that would want to reach out to us.
Yes, please reach out to Karl and the team over at Rivers Gift, because there is a team, isn't there? There's a few of you working with under the umbrella of Rivers Gift, isn't there?
Under the umbrella, just over 2 full-time effective, Andy. So we've got a few part-timers there, and Alex is doing 1 day a week too. Hopefully, in time, she's doing more than that. But yeah, I'm working full-time, and I've got a couple of part-timers, and we're about to bring somebody on in a contract capacity to take on some of that Unite work, trying to build those connections with families across the nation and across the world for that matter. So,
amazing.
It's something that we're all very passionate about, and we're wanting to grow and develop.
Beautiful. And you do some public speaking, I believe, as well.
Oh, a little bit from time to time at different events, and you have to almost pull the microphone out of my hand half the time. But no, we do public speaking. Both Alex and I. Alex, she was trained as a professional actress in New York many moons ago, and
wow,
she's incredibly talented in the way that she presents, and we love to speak and share our story. It's really about sharing and opening up and showing that we're vulnerable, and we still are. There are times that we're feeling pretty weak at the knees. Not as much anymore, but but being authentic and vulnerable has always been a really big part of who Alex is, who I am, and who we are at Rivers Gift, because it's just real. It's that's what we want it to be. It's just a real everyday experience of a young family who were tracking along just beautifully one day, and then the next day the life was just turned on its head. So a little bit of public speaking.
Yeah, no, I think it's beautiful that you do that. With that change, that sudden change in your life. I know you started Rivers Gift. Did you say it was 6 or 8 months later after Rivers' passing?
Oh, It's all a bit of a blur, but you really passed on the 7th of November, and I think that by the January, so a couple of months later, we had the logo and we had people donating money through to a bank account. It wasn't in the name of Rivers Gift, but everyone was just donating money. So I think it's fair to say that the ball was rolling within a couple of months, but then things didn't really become official until early 2013, when we were able to get a great legal company here in Geelong, Howard Andrews. They came on board and they said, "Yeah, we'll help out. We want to help you build a constitution and all these things that not too many of us in the world really understand." And it wrote the constitution for us and had us registered formally as a charity. But within months we certainly had the ball rolling and had people gathering in and around us. Yeah.
When did it become more of a full-time thing for you?
For me, first up, it was April 2016. So we partnered with a local building company here in Geelong called Geelong Homes, and they approached us and they said, "Look, we want to partner with a local charity. We want to build a home, and all the profitable proceeds from the build of that home, we'll get suppliers contributing and trying to be charitable in their giving. We get contractors coming in. We'll try and make as much money as we possibly can. We'd love that charity to be Rivers Gift." And I nearly fell off my chair. When Andrew rang me that, it's a good name that, isn't it? And he rang me and he said, "Karl, how would you feel about that being Rivers Gift?" I did. Literally, I was just so surprised. It was beautiful. And we did that. And they built a home and $135,000 was raised. And it was at that point that the board, Rivers Gift board, knew that I was itching to try and get into a full-time role if I could, because I was just, prior to that, so this is right through until early 2016, I was working in a full-time role elsewhere in the marine oil spill industry. And I was just itching to get out.
Yeah, I bet you were, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of Rivers Gift work at work. They'll tell you that. I might have snuck a few little things in there from time to time.
I do the same. Don't tell anybody.
It's certainly working, late hours at night and trying to build the organisation. So the board said, "Okay, let's give it a 12-month contract. Let's give it a go. Now that we've got the security of having those funds from the charity home come through, like any business, whether it's for profit or not for profit, you've got to make money and you've got to invest into the business. And one of the biggest parts, or if not the biggest part of investing into your business, is your people, isn't it? So we did that, and things have gone well. I can't really say onward and upward completely from there, because that time that we all faced in early 2020, when the world was turned on its head for a couple of years, I had to jump out of the business then. So the board were very, very candid and very honest, and they said, "Look, Alex, Karl," because Alex was working a few days a week then too, and we were really building momentum too. We had fundraising events. We had a gala ball with 608 people there, I remember. And we raised $118,000 at the gala ball. Things were really starting to build. We were offering education classes face-to-face and on video. And then COVID hit. So I pulled out, Alex pulled out, and I was working in a local business here in the Geelong region called Southern Star Windows. And so I knew nothing about windows, Andy. It's probably fair to say that 2 years later when I left, I still didn't know anything about windows. But they wanted somebody to come into the business who could help try and develop and improve their service department. And that was largely about managing people, and I'd formed this relationship with them through fundraising events, and they'd sponsored and supported us. And I rang the general manager at the time, Ken, and I said, "Ken, I'm in this predicament where the board are asking us to pull out of Rivers Gift for reasons well understood. I mean, if you can't host fundraising events and you can't really be delivering a lot of these education services face to face, then what is there to do?" So we had to pull out, because we wanted to preserve everything that we'd built in a monetary form in the bank. We didn't want to just whittle those funds away.
Yeah.
Got a real responsibility there. So anyway, Ken said, "I'll come back to you in a couple of days." And before I knew it, I was working in the window and door industry. And after a couple of years, fortunately, the clouds lifted and I was able to get back into Rivers Gift. And Geelong Homes built another charity home for us. And so another $118,000 came, or $118,000 to $120,000 came through to us. And things have gone onward and up from there, and we've got a fantastic board of directors on board. So we've got some really good minds in and around us supporting us, and it's just tremendous. We've built a strategy. So we've built some main pillars, being education, research, and advocacy, and a lot of our activity is channeled into those three main pillars, just to ensure a strong direction forward. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, you can probably hear it in me. You know,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm working a job. It's and not many people have that privilege, you know, to be working in something that you're so invested in and passionate about.
Yeah.
Advocacy is a really strong part of what we do. And you mentioned before the public speaking stuff, and that's where the advocacy comes in. It's really important to be able to share and speak the journey and build those relationships, and advocating and bringing other families in, like through our Unite program. That's where it's really critical, because it's the power of masses, right?
I
So
agree.
the more stories we can share, and the more people and communities we can touch. Just to share with you, the Unite programs is pivotal for us. And around about 18 months ago, we had a family who lost their little girl, Jasmine, in the Brisbane area, back in 2017, and they connected in with us, and they were regular for many, many years, regular goers, regular patrons or attendees of the Gympie Music Muster, which is one of Australia's biggest country music festivals. Behind Tamworth, it'd be probably the second biggest. And Ben, Jasmine's father, said to me one day, you know, why don't we throw an application in to be the charity partner of the Gympie Music Muster? So together as a group, we put this application forward, and we got it. And so last year we were chosen, in August was the festival, but we were chosen sort of 6 months before that as the partnering charity, and the opportunity to share our story, because the featuring charity there, the exclusive charity partners, front and center. You know, you get a few opportunities to public speak and present, and we were there, and the short story is that we raised $124,000 for River's Gift. Just amazing.
Oh,
And we had the opportunity to, I think what's more powerful, that's the monetary piece, right? And it's easy to sort of talk about that very quickly, but to share our story with 8,500 people at a festival, and many of those people are those people that think, oh, well, that happens, but it won't happen to me, or, you know, it doesn't really happen anymore, does it, SIDS? Doesn't it? Didn't it go away?
yeah.
So just building awareness, making people aware of the fact that, sadly, tragically, it still does happen, and it happened to us. You know, normal people. Well, partly normal, and it's that was huge, and taking our cause and our story to a completely new place. You know, the Gympie Music Muster it was a complete new audience, and they're not just people from Gympie. They're people from right across Australia, and probably internationally in some, to a small degree. And it's coincidental, though. I say we took it to a brand new place. We've actually got another connection in with a family who are trucking oriented. So Dan, the father, is a truckie, and they host a truckies day at the Gympie Showgrounds. So coincidentally, Gympie. It's about an hour from Noosa, for those listeners that might know the name, the paradise that is Noosa. Gympie's around about an hour northwest of Noosa, and they host a truckies day every second year in honour of Matty. And Matty passed suddenly and unexpectedly to SIDS in October of 2011, so about a month before River. So that's just two examples of where other families link in with us, and the truckies day is hosted every second year. It's actually being hosted this October, on October the 10th this year at the Gympie Showgrounds. They donated $75,000 to us 2 years ago, with over 4,000 people coming through the gates. And again, you're sharing the story. You're sharing Maddie's story. You know, you're sharing Maddie's and River's story. So it's bringing communities together, and trying as best we can to make an impact and build that army of support.
Love that. And, I feel you on that, because I feel that's the premise of the podcast, is to share people's journeys. And
Yeah.
it's not, it's honestly not about, the numbers. I just love people hearing people's journeys, so they can take pieces away from them, regarding, their mental health state, or the things that they do on a daily basis to help themselves mentally. If they're stuck in the middle, or if they're in a pivotal point in their life when they're changing their careers, maybe, and I don't know, they have lost somebody. I think you see where I'm going with it. I totally understand where you're coming from in that, and I just love it. I get goosebumps thinking about people hearing your story today, right? And the same with the next guest next week as well. Yeah, I just love
It's
it.
so often, isn't it? It's hardship. If you look at the premise of so many of your guests, I'd imagine, just having looked through YouTube and looking on your website, that these are people who have really been right up against it, and
Yeah,
hopefully in so many of the cases, if not all, have come through and discovered that light again, So, and I
absolutely.
think the biggest light for Alex and myself is welcoming Shiloh into our world. We're pregnant with Shiloh only 6 weeks after losing River, and that was Alex's lifeline, to be honest.
Yeah,
That was what kept her alive. And then a couple of years later, welcoming Bodhi into our world. So Shiloh now is 13, and she keeps telling us she's 15 next year. So she keeps reminding us she's pretty excited about growing up. And Bodhi's 10, and he's almost as tall as me.
he
So
is. Yeah, and when I saw you last time, I was like, I couldn't believe how tall he'd grown. To be fair,
yeah, you'll have me in a couple of years.
how do
But
they? How do they? Sorry, Carl. How do they? Obviously they never met River. They only see River. They see, not only, that's the wrong word to say, but they see River through you and the passion that you bring and Alex brings to what you do with River's Gift every day. The photos, I'm sure they've seen. But what's their thoughts and responses to everything in life?
they feel connected to their big brother,
Oh,
and it's great that you brought that up too, though, because we don't often have the opportunity to share that you've got to find a balance, because there is that tendency to be so passionate and driven around what you're doing in honor and memory of your little boy and these other babies that have slipped away suddenly and unexpectedly.
yeah,
And we've often got to be, and probably more so, I find it challenging than Alex. Alex is good at taking herself out of the Rivers Gift space and focusing, on the kids. And I think I'm getting better at it.
yeah,
Certainly, I have gotten better at it over the years. But you've got to remember, these are little 13-year-old minds that ever since, like Shiloh knew about her big brother ever since she was 1 or 2,
yeah,
and Bodhi likewise. And you got to be very careful sometimes to be sure not to be focusing too much on this little boy that's no longer here. It's got to be about Shiloh. It's got to be about Bodhi, and give them all the, and that's not dissimilar really to any other child, older sibling that's alive and well.
yeah,
You got to make sure that you share the love and the attention and be present with all of your children, individually and collectively. So yeah, but to answer your question, they don't get too heavily involved in the day-to-day stuff at all, really. I mean, they've got their own lives and they're at school, but they know well and truly what we do with River's Gift, and I think quietly proud of their big brother and the legacy that he's left, and what mum and dad are doing to try and forge a difference, make a difference.
yeah, absolutely. Well, with everything that you went through with Rivers and Rivers Gift, and what you brought up even in that discussion points regarding the brain and the physiology, if that's the right word, of our human brain, it's become very fascinating. And there's something else that I found about you in our pre-chat, that we share something quite in common I mean, you've gone definitely a lot deeper with the studies you've done over the years, but we seem both to be quite passionate about the brain. And you went on a bit of a journey yourself when you were younger in regards to studying that as well, didn't you? Because you actually originally came from Perth and you moved over to this beautiful part of the world. I don't know why you would have left the sunshine. Your parents would have left the sunshine for the what I've now realised the 4 seasons that we could have in one day here in Melbourne. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you came from, and the connection to our passion, the brain. Well, we come to the end of part 1 with Karl. That's not the end though, because part 2 will be coming. But we sat with the reality of grief today, after the loss of his beautiful son River, and the way heartbreak can shake. I think that's the right word. Shake your identity, your mental health, and your whole world. We spoke about the power of community support when you're barely holding it together, the importance of safe sleep awareness, and how Karl turned pain into purpose through River's gift. A charity committed to raising awareness and funding research into SIDS while helping other families feel less alone. In part 2, we go deeper into Karl's journey with the mind, his fascination with the human brain, his lived experience with OCD, and what healing and self-discovery can look when your thoughts won't switch off. You won't want to miss it, because there's so much in there for anyone who's ever felt stuck in their head or trapped in a loop of what ifs. Before you come back for part 2, here's my advice. Don't carry heavy things in silence. Reach out to someone you trust. Even if it's just to say, hey, I'm not okay today. And if this episode has meant something to you, please share it, follow the podcast, and leave a rating or review on your favourite platform. On this platform. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep leading your own way, and come back for part 2 with Karl and myself. See you then. To help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.